I completely forgot to record this, but I hope you guys had good holidays and a happy new year. Hey guys, Marcy here. In today's build, we are going to be trying our best to make a balance of power build work, which due to some recent shifts in the ability gains meta is surprisingly viable. I wouldn't say it's good, but it's viable. And while it's not meta defining, just thought it'd be fun to make use of an exotic that most of you probably don't even remember being in the game. So because of that, let me just list out the things that Balance of Power does. The Balance of Power will grant the Strand Clone, or your Threaded Spectre as it's officially called, 50% damage resist, which doesn't matter, a 67% increased duration, haha funny number, and 2 additional Perched Threadling. When the Spectre takes enough damage, it will release 1 Perched Threadling, but when it's destroyed it will release all, so a total of 5. And just as an insurance policy to make sure no one insane enough uses this exotic, it nerfs your class ability regen by 50% for 19 seconds whenever you use your class ability, which surprisingly doesn't really matter here, and you'll come to see here soon. The main two things you want to care about are the increased duration and the guaranteed threadling spawns if it's destroyed, with the added bonus of 2 extra threadlings. So how in the world could we make this exotic usable? To cut to the chase, it's going to very obviously be the Praxic Blade and Sage Protector combo. I know, big surprise, how original, but due to how strong Sage Protector is, it will enable us to spam our class ability and our grenade way more than we used to be able to, especially in regards to Balance of Power in particular. And our subclass configuration is going to do its best to support this sort of playstyle, which, speaking of subclass, just going right over to that, our dodge is going to be the marksman dodge for the faster cooldown, as well as just actually doing something for us. It will collect all nearby ammo boxes, which doesn't really matter, but gambler's dodge will quite literally be doing nothing, as we are not going to be using our melee pretty much at all. Our grenade, I've personally opted for shackle grenade, but any of these 3 will work. The aspects are obviously going to be Threaded Spectre. I have opted for Ensnaring Slam, as it will grant us very easy access to Woven Mail, and the Praxic Blade, since its block is so strong, it will enable us to actually be able to close the gap to use Ensnaring Slam. The fragments I've chosen are Thread of Wisdom to grant us an orb whenever we kill a suspended target. It does, I believe, have a 10-second cooldown, but that almost doesn't really matter. Thread of a Continuity for increased suspend duration, as well as Sever. Thread of Generation to get our grenade back a little bit quicker. Thread of Mind to give us class ability energy whenever we kill a suspended target. And Thread of Evolution, which will come into play later. My Praxic Blade is set up in a way to have Offensive Form and Impact Core with the Hyperblade Catalyst. This is one of the best catalysts in the game, bar none. Amplified for free is huge, and having Eager Edge Swing is pretty fun. I'd have Forceful Blade 3, but I just haven't grinded enough for it, so Forceful Blade 3 is what I would recommend. Otherwise, use whatever you want here, it doesn't really matter. The other 2 weapons also don't really matter. Those are kind of a waste. I just use an Eager Edge Sword because I like to go fast. Quickly going over our stats, I've opted for 110 class at base, but I do have a class font, as that will grant us a small overshield, which will help survivability a little bit and allow our health to start regenning. And I've opted for as much weapon stat as possible. The more weapon stat, the better. I would not recommend sacrificing 100 class stat if possible, though. The other stats quite literally do not matter. The least valuable one is going to be melee. I have 94 grenade just to try and help the cooldown of my shackle grenade, and the super stat doesn't really matter. Quickly going over the artifact, the main ones you want to grab are the Sword Storm combo, combination Argent Blade, and Counter Energy. Everything else is kind of whatever. Kinetic Synthesis is nice, and if you have anyone on your team using Void stuff, obviously grab Power from Pain and Void Infestation, just as a very easy way to get devoured. Quickly going over the mods on my helmet, I've opted to use a super font to help my super stat go up to 85 for a little bit quicker regen. So that way I gain more value out of my second mod, Dynamo, which will grant me a nice chunk of super energy whenever I use my class ability near targets, which will be all the time, given the nature of Ensnaring Slam, as well as a Kinetic Siphon. On the gauntlets, I'll admit none of these really matter. Depending on what you use for your grenade, you might get use out of firepower. I would recommend using Bolstering Detonation, however. This is really the only thing you can slot here. Everything else, at least in my case, does not matter. For chest piece, just use general resist mods, who cares? It's the usual. Obviously the exotic is balance on power. I'm using recuperation and 2 kinetic surges, as this will boost the damage of the Praxic Blade by 17%, and whenever we pick up an orb, it'll give us, I believe it's 15 health. On the cloak, I have opted for a class font to bring me up to 130. Time dilation to make our armor charge last a little bit longer, and a copy of Reaper, so that way after we use our Ensnaring Slam, we are guaranteed to gen an orb on the next kill. That way we can sometimes get 2 orbs off of a kill through Thread of Wisdom and Reaper, and occasionally we can get 3 orbs on a kill here and there, but that's very rare. I wouldn't count on it. Obviously the armor set bonus is going to be Sage Protector. As I mentioned previously, it is ridiculous. At minimum, you're getting 5% energy per sword hit, including ticks. So any sort of caster frame or vortex frame that you have will make great use of it. 86 is obviously the biggest example I can give, but in this case, we're not going to be using 86. We're just going to be using Praxic Blade as our main sword. The other armor set bonus I would choose would be the Swordmaster's armor set. The reason I would choose this over 4-piece Sage Protector is because the Swordmasters will allow our sword, the Praxic Blade, to also apply Exhaust on top of Sever, which will reduce the enemy's outgoing damage by an additional 25%. So it'll make survivability that much better. And I personally don't have a whole lot of value for Ferropoint, but it's all I have. So, bad RNG moment. One additional note that I would like to add on is, for some reason, this is not specific to Balance of Power. It seems to be specific to Woven Mail. But if you have Woven, any instance of damage you take will proc the Hyperblade Catalyst as well as Amplified. It will just give you Hyperblade as well as Amplified on repeat. I have no idea why it does this. I don't know what the correlation between the two is, but you do not need to block as long as you have Woven Mail if your goal is to get Amplified or Hyperblade procced. One last additional note is, even if you have 200 super, as I do here thanks to the super font and having 180 super, the Balance of Power Suspend Slam while you're in the super can actually do more total damage than the actual super itself, which I find to be hilarious. So 17,820 is the number with 200 super. So sub 100 super. Reset. Pop this. $19,000. So if you are, for whatever reason, in a situation where you just want to start spamming as many clones as possible, that's unironically kind of not the worst idea in the world. Though the only reason that's even possible is because of Thread of Evolution. If it weren't for this, then Balance of Power would actually be doing less damage. So shout out Thread of Evolution. Just to sort of show gameplay of the build, not in the shooting range, I'm going to be doing a ultimate difficulty, Ice Battlegrounds Moon. I have no bonus modifiers, so I will see you when I load in. So the main gameplay loop of the build is to find a group of enemies, or at least the biggest group of enemies, and just spend slam and keep doing that on repeat. It will come off cooldown very quickly, as you can see here. Just like that. I will probably cut out the traversal sections to get to the actual parts of gameplay, so assuming I do that, I will see you there. Welcome back. Alright. I will probably cut this part out as well. Maybe I'll leave the doors in, but I will see you then. Alright. Welcome back. Assuming I edited the door section out. This is so stupid. Thank you, sword tracking. And just like that.
I'm not familiar with this station. My authentication protocols aren't functioning. Did Elizabeth do this?
13 minutes. That's going to be it for today's video. If you have any suggestions for exotics you would like me to cover that you believe are either underutilized or underpowered or just haven't really seen a whole lot of use since they came out, let me know. I will try to make a relatively competent build. I know this is a bit of a gimmick, but I just want to explore underused exotics a little bit more because I think the idea behind them could be potentially pretty fun. But that will be all. If you enjoyed, please like and hopefully subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.